I'm Ashton Addison from Blockwest Capital for Investment Pitch Media and the Crypto Coin Show. And today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Gareth Ward, co-founder and COO of Bumper. Gareth, welcome back to the show. It's great to see you once again.
Yeah, you too, Ashton. Thanks for having me again.
You're very welcome. Since we last spoke in the middle of 2021, Bumper was working hard on the platform, and we can talk about this as we dive in, but I know the platform does capitalize especially well when the market goes down a little bit, and that did happen near the end of the year. But I would love for you to start, for the people who didn't see our first interview and aren't familiar with Bumper, with a little bit about what is the Bumper platform, what are the solutions that you're bringing to the blockchain space, and then we can sort of dive into those details.
Yeah, no worries. So Bumper is a decentralized, non-custodial, permissionless platform that provides price protection of an unstable asset. So this is not a kind of insurance in terms of like a smart contract hack insurance protocol. It's very different. This is taking the asset like ETH or Bitcoin and protecting the value of it. So by taking out a policy, you can protect a level so that if the price drops below that level and you then exit the policy, you will come out with the amount that you've protected to. So what that looks like is if you bought ETH and you have ETH and it went up to $4,000, cross fingers it goes back up there. And at that point, you decide, you know what, it's getting a bit toppy. I'm not sure where it's going to go. I want to go long on ETH. I believe in it. I want to protect 90% of that value. So what that says is that if the price drops below $3,600, the Bumper protocol will make sure that you still have $3,600 worth of value. And if for some reason the price drops down below that 3,600, goes to 3,200, and you decide to exit and you're able to exit at that point, you will walk away with $3,600 worth of value. So essentially what we do is we create a marketplace of sellers of risk and buyers of risk. So the sellers are those people who are taking out the policy, we call them takers, and the buyers of risk are the makers. They are the liquidity providers. They provide a stable coin on the other side of the protocol, and that works to protect that value of the takers, and that's an incentivized part of the protocol with safety nets and all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. And yeah, that probably would have come in handy when Ethereum went up to almost $5,000 and dropped to the 2,500s, a 50% drop to utilize that. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, now is the time that you can really, I think people feel that pain, and it does have a lot of applications. Obviously for someone who just has an asset, they are going long on it and they don't have the time to trade it in and out. They don't have maybe the knowledge to do a particularly good job of that, and they would pay a fee to really just have that underlying value protected. This is very good for that. For professional traders, it is. For funds, it can be very good because what they're trying to see is showing on their balance. For their investors, they need to see on the balance book. Now, what they're often doing on the side anyway is taking out options. Taking out options to protect the value of the asset, and that can be quite complicated and cumbersome. It's old technology, and it's definitely something that is, they were invented back in the 70s, so they need an overhaul, and Bumper's here to do that.
Definitely, Gareth. And this sort of sounds to me as a beginner trader, it sounds very similar to like a stop loss or just protecting your losses. But I believe it's a little bit different. It's more intricate than that. And maybe you could explain the difference between stop loss function and the bumper protocol, because from what I understand, it can go back up and you don't have to sell, or there's other ways that you can use the technology.
Yeah. I mean, stop loss is kind of a reactionary tool in that, what you do with the stop loss is exactly what it says on the tin. If it drops below that level, it will automatically sell out. And then you've at least protected to the lowest position you're prepared to go. Mm-hmm. What that doesn't allow you to do is to remain in that actual asset. Mm-hmm. So for those who have a long thesis on it, the most frustrating, we've all been there, where we think we're doing the right thing by protecting the asset. You think, great, okay, it's getting pretty volatile. And then there's, it's a stop loss chase, right? So some whales just know where the stop losses are, and then they just dump it down. Everyone sells out. They basically pick up everything cheaply, and then it just pumps back up. And in crypto, this is really exacerbated because fundamentally low liquidity levels in crypto compared to traditional markets, and so it's much easier and far more volatile. So that kind of usage of stop loss can be quite tricky to do, and you can often get caught out. And what you end up doing is you're now out of the asset, and you don't get the pump on the way out. Mm-hmm. What Bumper does is it allows you to go long on that asset. So under those conditions, you're not worried about it. You don't even have to think about it. And then if or when it does pump, then you're in that asset and you're capturing all the upside. Stop loss doesn't have an upside. And the reality is that it means that you have to be very active. And for most people, even if they have the time to be active, they're not any good at it. I mean, it takes years to be a very good trader. So
definitely.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, Bumper allows you to not have to worry about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great point, Gareth, about hitting the stop losses and then the asset goes back up. I feel like that happens to so many people, and then you're out of the position, right? And looking into the protocol with Bumper, I saw that there's also staking, and there's the stable coins, and there's a giant pool that the team has already accumulated from the community. Maybe you can talk about like how the staking works in Bumper as well.
Yeah, so it's been quite popular. We brought the staking module forward. We were going to build it a bit later, but we had a lot of comments and questions from the community. Once they get the tokens, do we have a staking program? So we kind of did a little kind of dev pivot to give that some priority, created the staking module, which will be utilized when the main Bumper protocol launches. So at the moment, it's just a pure, ability to get more, Bump tokens. And later on, it does play an important function as a safety module for the protocol down the track. So the way it works is you stake, you have a choice of like a flexible term, which means you can just take it out any time. There will be a kind of cool down period, but effectively you can take it out. And then there are three other kind of terms, 30, 60, and 90 days. Now, depending on which term you get, you'll get what's called a multiplier. It's like a staking power. So if you put in $1,000 on $1,000 bump, on a flexible plan, that will give you the power of 1,000 bump. So if X amount of tokens, which 5,000 bump tokens, are being distributed every day, if there's 5,000 bump tokens in the actual staking module, you have 1,000 of them, you will capture 1/5 of that. But if you've got other people who are in other, because you've got 1,000, everyone else is flexible. If other people are in other terms, they have different multipliers, so that will reduce your ability, your kind of staking power. So if you're on a 30-day, you got a 1.5 times multiple. So that 1,000 bump then becomes like 1,500 bump. So you could potentially capture more of the pro rata of that distribution for the day. And then there's a 2.75% on a 60-day and a 6 times on a 90-day. So those are kind of the staking power, the way that works.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. That's great to know. And yeah, I think a lot of people I've seen, at least in the community, locking in for longer term, and it's really not that long. Crypto moves so quickly that, and you know, this protocol, I'm guessing the vision is to be going years and years in the future, right? And
yeah.
As digital assets continue to mature.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, there's like anything, there's a bit of game theory in that, you know, whether it's 90 days or 30 days or flexible could be the better option for you. Because if a lot of people come in with staking and there's not as much pro-rata kind of, you might be better off in the flex and having that flexibility to trade the tokens. But if there aren't a lot and you've gone in and you capture a 6 times multiplier, then you can really clean up. So it's really just, it's quite an interesting game. So it's one that I'm sure people get used to and see how it plays out.
Definitely. And you mentioned there about the full mainnet protocol working towards that. Maybe you can talk a little bit about the plans for the first half of 2022, and is there a tentative schedule for when that mainnet is rolling out?
Yeah, so we're definitely over halfway through at the moment, and it's moving at quite a lot of pace. So there's the architecture of the protocol is pretty much done, and we're just working on a few tricky things. Like fungibility is quite a tricky one, so we're requiring a bit more time on some of those things. But for the most part, it's all done. The ABM, which is the agent-based modeling, we've had some really good initial results from that, showing that against the European options desk, we would be 10% to 70% cheaper than an options, and that is again something like Hedgic, for example. So that was really, and that was unoptimized right out of the tin. So what we're now doing is we're rebuilding the Python code for the simulations so that we can do a few more things with it. And that's not far away, probably less than a week away from being finalized. And then we're going to start really optimizing it and adding in a few extra things that we didn't include in the first one as part. So we expect that to be even better. That will then feed into the protocol, and that's something that we're kind of, that information will drive some of those early, you know, settings that we need to make once we've completed the build. UI is always moving forward, so we're constantly doing UX and UI. We're looking at a few key changes that we think will make it much more user-friendly. And also just we're also looking at maybe a bit of a UI, that just the interface change design-wise. It will be fundamentally the same, but we'd like to kind of push it in the direction that we kind of really wanted to go. A lot more looking like it's a 1980s game, 8-bit, 16-bit game. And that could be, it's one of those things like, do you fully commit, you know? So we're kind of juggling that at the moment. And then, you know, essentially, the front end is always developing on whatever the UI has been doing. So they're, getting through again. They've already got stuff out there, so there's a bit of refinement on some of those existing pages. But now we're really into that whole protect flow of build at the moment, and there's lots coming out of that because we're also trying to put things in place that will allow for extra networks, extra assets, and that the DApp can scale and still be functionally very efficient for a user to and clear for them to understand.
Definitely. So many moving pieces to have in the right place, and the timing as well, with the user experience and where the market's at and looking at the long-term vision of it. We don't have a lot of time left, Gareth, but I want to get your vision on the long-term prospect for Bumper. Where do you see Bumper in the industry 3 to 5 years down the road, which comes pretty quickly in cryptocurrency?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a tricky one to answer. 3 to 5 years. Last year was really busy year for us. We kind of came out. That was our entry year into the market. The market welcomed us. We've built a good sized community, brand. Obviously, we're refining that. We're building a business. We're having to build a business to scale for where we want the protocol to be, and that's one of the top DeFi protocols. This protocol is very unique. We are keeping our cards close to our chest at this point for that kind of IP protection until it's open source and out there. And I would like to think that we will be an absolute leader in the space, in the derivative space, and have captured the market on multiple chains. Where we really want, and this is where I think DeFi needs some real work in general, is that at the moment DeFi is still for the nerds and the pseudo nerds at the moment. You're connecting a wallet, you have to hold private keys, all that kind of thing. An integration with more retail-friendly applications is where we'd like to go, and we see that if you were on an app that you use, could be anything, could be crypto.com, eToro, or whatever kind of app, Revolut, that has crypto that you can buy, and you simply just press a bumper button in this corner, and it just does it for you. It bumpers your asset. Then that would be the easiest for a retail person to deal with. There's no kind of connecting wallets and paying gas fees and having to understand that world. So we need to bring in general DeFi. The applications need to be far easier, so that users really can interact with it in the way that they interact with everything else now. It's a Face ID, and then they're straight in, and that's it. And they don't have to think about. That does mean that there's possibly centralization on one end, but if DeFi can solve for that, that's the holy grail. They can solve for at the back end being decentralized, but at the same time the ease, not necessarily having to hold that. But I'm not the genius that will design that. I think definitely. Someone out there will.
No, I think the integrations with major exchanges and on-ramps and off-ramps will be key to success. So thank you for pointing that out, Gareth. And you mentioned, we talked about the staking, we talked about the path towards the mainnet. For the viewers that are interested in learning more and getting involved with the staking right away, following along for these updates towards the mainnet rollout, what's the best way for them to learn more and to get involved with Bumper?
Yeah, the best thing is to go to the website. It's bumper.fi, FI. that will have all the links. So you'll get there's a Discord link, Telegram, Medium articles. There are plenty of kind of explanations and various levels of what your knowledge base is. That would be the best point. If you want to play around, if you kind of know how to deal with these things, you just want to get stuck in, then go to app.bumper.fi and that'll be the DApp.
Amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time, Gareth, to come back on once again. I'm impressed with all the progress with Bumper, and I'm looking forward to these updates that we spoke about, and let's follow up in the near future.
Yeah, thanks, Ash. I really appreciate having me again.